For Gray Matter on a Friday morning, I am joined via Zoom from Mr. Rob Lee Davis in Brooklyn. How you doing today, Rob?
I'm good. I'm definitely warmer than you.
You are warmer than me. Yeah, so for those of you who are not in the Colorado area, we got a lovely spring snow last night. So I woke up. I had to like literally, I mean, the studio is in my backyard. We built it in the backyard. I had to shovel just to get here, which I thought I had to put the shovel away, but it is Colorado, and we usually get like when you
And
think
I
that's
just want to say, as my trips to Colorado have generally been in the summer, you keep
yes.
telling me, oh, come other times. The weather's not that crazy. You got snow this
But it's not that crazy, really. I mean, it's just okay. It is crazy, but like we get mostly good days, and then like every once in a while we get blitzed with something, and because it's like this snow is gonna melt in like a day or two, and then who cares, right? And
But it's
honestly,
supposed to be April showers, not April snow.
I know, but this is Colorado, so we get snow, and it's okay because most people are celebrating because spring snow is awesome, like spring snow weather for skiing and snowboarding. People are out there, and
Okay.
like they'll be like in a few days, people are going to be like skiing in like short sleeves on the mountains because they'll yeah, it's crazy. Um,
Yeah. White people. But,
true that, true that.
you know,
It is, you know.
I'm just saying.
I'm not denying it, man. I'm not denying it, and I honestly, I can't defend that one. I can't defend that one. I'm not here to defend it. So I do want to talk really quickly. We have some things to talk about. All right, we have to talk about some censorship issues that has arisen for
Yes.
us. F
Yes.
you, YouTube. F
Yes.
YouTube. That's
Seriously.
it. But I want to talk about New York.
Yeah.
So like there's been great news out of New York when it comes to cannabis legalization, right? It's recreational cannabis is now legal there. It was a long fight. It was one of those that honestly a lot of us didn't get why it was taking so long for New York to get their act together.
Right. Of all places.
Of all places, right? I mean, I mean, they're liberal. They should be, I mean, well, New York City is. I mean, New York State, I get it. It's a
Yeah, New
little,
York City and New York State. But then
different.
you also actually have to kind of separate Staten Island out too when you talk about New York City because it's much more of a Republican bastion than the rest of us.
That's right. It is, isn't it? Well, so this came across I think via LinkedIn, and I'm sorry when I copied it and I sent it to you, and you actually couldn't get it. But I can't give credit to the person because I now don't have their name on here, and I apologize for that. But
Oh,
they
okay.
had gotten basically a leaked police department memo from New York. The finest, and it was dated, and I'm going to kind of read a good amount. So it was dated um, March 31st of this year, and it's police department, city of New York, and it said finest message, general administrative information. It says to all commands, marijuana legalization 2021, effective today, March 31st, 2021. The New York State Legislature has overhauled the laws covering the possession, sale, and use of marijuana. The new laws will create sweeping changes to the department's enforcement of marijuana offenses. The key changes are and then what they do is they list what's now legal recreationally in New York. And this is New York State, but this is obviously from New York's finest. This is a New York City memo for the police department of New York, which I think is a really big deal. And I think I love sharing good news when we get it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
this is what the police departments were given as a memo to probably read in their daily briefings or whatever to all the uniformed cops, right? I'm assuming all the cops actually, but uniform cops are what we're thinking about mostly, right? So individuals
Mhm.
who are 21 or older may lawfully in New York possess 3 ounces or less. I love how they have to say or less. Like
Yes. Yes. As
you
opposed to
only have
saying
two
ounces
ounces,
without.
sir. It's either 3 ounces or nothing. But 3 ounces or less in a public place. So, just for those of you out there, I'm not going to go through every state's laws because I don't have them all in my head, but like in Colorado, and we've been considered like the liberal bastion of cannabis legalization, we kind of pioneered it, right? We can possess up to 2 ounces if you are a patient, and 1 ounce if you are not. When you're traveling, right? Well, you can purchase up to 1 ounce, is what I should say. And so the
Okay.
purchasing
Okay.
limits, they don't talk about purchasing limits here because that has nothing to do with what the cops can do, right? So they can possess. This is interesting, and this is kind of a crazy way. They can possess up to 5 pounds of marijuana in their residence.
Well, I can't even picture what that looks like.
You can't picture. Well, I mean, I know what that looks like. It's a lot of weed. It's a lot of weed. Okay, I mean, just understand. It's like, you're talking like a duffel bag of weed. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And I have no problem with that. I think it's great. I think the more I don't think there should be even a limit on it. I mean, have as much freaking weed as you want. I don't really care. But that's 5 pounds is a lot. I mean, now you're growing a lot of weed if you have 5 pounds. Like you're
Yeah,
harvesting a
5
lot
pounds.
at a time.
Yeah.
Like here in Colorado, for example, you can grow 6 plants, and I don't know actually. I got to look up the laws for what you can grow. I don't know if you can grow in New York. But we can grow up to 6 plants, but we can't harvest all 6 of the plants at the same time. That's not like how you're supposed to have. I think no more than 3 plants in harvest at any given time.
And what is that even based upon?
Well, there was recommendations going on as far as how people grow, what they need, what their usages are. So like they've come up with an amount, right? And they would say no reasonable home consumer is going to go through more than 6 plants every few months, or the amount of bud that 6 plants can grow. And for the most part, it's not inaccurate, right? It's like, some people say, well, if I'm making concentrates, I need more, and that's absolutely true. And if you are a medical patient and you're most likely making concentrates because you need a higher dosage and you need more of it, and it's just hard to smoke all that bud, right, to get the medicine you need. So that's why concentrates are great. And so you would need to make an extract, so you might need more. But when you're a medical patient here, you can have rights to have more plants to grow as well. So, but anyway, back to New York. Unless you have no question on that side, but
No. Keep going. Keep going.
so in New York, and you can give. I love this one actually. You can give lawful amounts of marijuana to other people who are 21 or over, as long as no compensation is exchanged. Now, all right. So no compensation is exchanged is kind of hilarious because you could Matt Gates it, right? You could Venmo the.
Yeah.
Hey, this is yeah. Here's $50 for tuition. What's that?
There should be a new paying app called the Gates.
The Gates. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I love that. So we know people are gonna basically
Of course.
is what it is, and that's fine. Now here's the biggest one. Like really, by the way, I think this is the biggest one, and I don't think anybody else has this in place. And I love that this is the police department sending this out, and this is the most impactful one of all, in my opinion. People who are 21 or older may lawfully smoke marijuana almost anywhere that cigarette smoking is allowed, including on sidewalks, on front stoops, and other public places. As a result, smoking marijuana in any of these locations is not a basis for an approach, stop, summons, arrest, or search. This is the most impactful line of this entire thing.
It is. And because of that, large numbers of police and police departments overall will need to scale back because the sheer number of people who they have simply been out there not finding murderers, not finding, rapists, but just finding people who were smoking weed.
Yep.
Will now cease. And that's going to piss off a lot of people. I don't give a shit at all.
No. I think so. Here's the thing: it's going to piss off a lot of people, but a lot of people, and their cops included, they're the good cops, right? They're like going to be relieved now. They're like, okay, I don't have to do any of this crap anymore. And that's the good cops, right? But then there's the cops that use this as, because this is the racial ammunition line, right? The anti-racial ammunition line, I should say, right? Because we all know, on the prohibition side that, hey, I smell marijuana here. That's all you needed. And now they're saying, if this dude is smoking on a sidewalk, you can't leave them alone.
Yes.
I mean, it just this is huge. This is really
So past time, it's beyond past time for this. There is such
yes.
a the fact that we went through years and years and
Mhm.
years of people being arrested for literally bullshit charges, right? Now we have cannabis, which is the honestly the sort of white culture more acceptable word for in business, right?
Yeah.
So it's still weed, right?
Yeah.
This is just the word that we're using now that
Yeah.
makes it more widely accepted.
Yeah.
And we've been unnecessarily putting large numbers of people, large numbers of black people, Latino people, men of color in general, women as well, in prison
Hmm.
for long sentences for weed,
For weed. For weed. Yep.
which is like it's insane. So now they're finally coming to an understanding that we don't need to be doing this, that there are actual true crimes that we need to be designating the sort of the police force or law enforcement to
Yeah.
tackle.
Yeah.
And I just had to say this because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
This, for me, is a large piece of why I heavily believe in the term defund the police.
Right.
Because the amount of money that is no longer going to be wasted paying people to go out and do this, to track people down, court cases, all of this stuff. We don't need to be spending on that.
We don't need to be spending on it. We will have this conversation over and over again. My statement on that and is that it still is bad marketing. And I'm going to give you an example. So my wife, her stepfather, military guy, very much on the right side of things, right? I mean right
I know
as
what
opposed
you
to
mean.
right as opposed to left. I don't mean correct side of things.
I know.
And he made a statement. And he's like, well, just about defunding the police and how it's stupid that they even think about defunding the police. And I was like, here's the thing that you got to understand, because he's like, well, we're gonna have less cops. And I was like, no, not necessarily less cops. By the way, I mean we may, but we will find that we have a need for less cops potentially. And that's not a bad thing. I had to explain to him. I was like, look, defund the police means reallocating expenses to put back into the community so it helps boost so there's less crime. So there's actually less work for the police to do. It's going to the source of problems and fixing them as opposed to constantly trying to treat everything in triage, which is what a cop kind of is, right? In that sense. And I explained it to him, and he's like, well, I've never heard that before. And I'm like, no, because all you've heard is defund the police, which in your brain, which is normal. I mean, if I hear that, without understanding what the nuances are, it says, oh, well, we're just taking money away from the cops. It's like, well, yeah, but you're not taking it away from them. It's like candy from a baby. You're taking something they don't need if we put it here. And I think that's the problem with the quote unquote slogan defund the police, because it doesn't get into like the nuance is going to be lost, and that's.
But I will. I know we'll probably continue to talk about this for years, but I will continue to say it is not the problem of the people who have been oppressed by something to change language to make the oppressor feel more comfortable with it or understand it better. All people have to do who don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Pick up a fucking book. Read about it.
But that's an idealistic comment though, right? Because
But it's idealistic that we should expect people to then research if
yes.
they don't understand something.
Yeah, you have to be realistic. We don't live in a world where people research that much. We live in a world where people look at a headline and they decide everything they need about it ahead of time. They don't even read the article. They'll share headline news as if that's the news. And that's it. And then you'll see people have opinions about the headline. So
But I still say if when the women's rights movement kicked off, there were plenty of men who did not like that idea, that framing.
Sure.
So should the women who were spearheading the women's rights movement have changed the name of their movement to make men feel more comfortable and understand it better?
No, that's a different. To me, that's not the same. To me, if the women's rights movement's slogan was "crush the balls of men," then
But
that's
defund the police is not crush the balls of the
no.
police.
What they're hearing
People
is
may want to
castrate. What they're
believe that.
hearing is castrate the police. Like take away whatever they have to do their job. You know, that's what I think is being heard when people hear defund the police. Now, women's rights is like that's not that's it's literally what it is, and like yeah, people were uncomfortable with it, but they weren't comfortable with it because of the
police is literally what it is. It is not eliminate. The phrase is not
no, it is not eliminate.
eliminate.
It is not
the
eliminate.
police.
That's correct. Look, I'm just saying.
I know. I mean, we know that we're in some.
I
political
agree
around it,
with what defund the police means. I just don't agree with it as the slogan. Anyway, but to just go back really to put on the New York thing. I'm very proud of New York for putting this in. I'm actually proud to see that this was put into like this is what the police have to put out there, because that this is something that should be celebrated, and it's also something that needs to be spread out as much as possible for anybody who lives in New York to understand that these are their rights, right?
Yes.
And so you know, really huge step. There's lots of big steps that are starting to happen as far as what I would say starting to make up amends for arrests. Like expunging arrests is happening. We're still not where we need to be, of course.
And they need to. So if they're doing all this, which they should be, because people should be allowed to. Again, they want to smoke weed wherever they are allowed to smoke cigarettes. They should be able to.
Yeah.
Which means you need to let people out of jail
Oh,
who
yeah.
are in jail on
No.
trumped up charges,
It's happening.
right?
Yep.
And if their records are going to be expunged, and I speak as someone who has had numerous bullshit interactions with the police, a number of near life-threatening experiences with the police, one to the point where I had to go so far as to have my record expunged, and I'm grateful that I was able to do that, but I had to fucking pay for it.
See, that's some bullshit, right?
If you're going to let these people out, you're going to say they're going to expunge their records, and we don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
Then pay for the expungement. They better not make people have to pay for these expungements.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, no, I think they're just going to be automatically expunged. I don't think there's not going to have to be a thing. I'm not sure, but we'll see. You know, we'll see. What also automatically happened to us recently, Rob, you and I, and Gray Matter, is we got sent a warning. Yeah, I know you are heated about this. So I get, you know, as the owner of our YouTube channel for HC Magazine, I got sent a warning from YouTube because we had a conversation about vaccines. That's it, right? We are an opinion piece. We talk about things that are in the news, but we have opinions. And we had a slightly differing opinion, you know. I mean, nothing but you had a specific opinion about vaccines, and nothing you shared was. If there was factual things you shared about numbers, right? But other than that, there was nothing that they could have gone after. I mean, if the numbers were a little off, maybe they could have gone after that as saying you spread something misfactual, but they really weren't. And then the rest was opinion. And so I may appeal it. I'll go through the whole thing. I got to go through our whole show again and kind of go, okay, maybe that's what they're talking about. But what's interesting is they sent me a warning, and the warning was, you have violated our policies of spreading falsehoods or mistruths. I'd have to put the email. Misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccines. And honestly, I don't believe we did. Again, it was an opinion.
We did not.
We didn't. I know. What really this brings up is because was somebody's like, oh, somebody flagged you on YouTube. And honestly, we get most of our viewers on Facebook right now. Welcome to go to YouTube and watch us too. But we get most of our viewers on Facebook, and so I don't think we got flagged. I think that there's an algorithm that YouTube has that is literally able to listen to what's being said, and they probably have keywords, just like you would, just like they do when they're spying on our phones. They want to hear us talk. They want to find out if somebody's doing terrorist acts. They have words that they can put as keywords, essentially, that will pop up, and then it'll make it listen a little bit more. And if there's a combination of keywords, you've hit our algorithm, and bam, there it is. I mean, I'm not that concerned about YouTube. And the next thing that happens is this is a warning and a slap on the wrist is we can't upload anything for a week. And I know there's an escalated thing, but I just thought it was kind of amazing that we actually got flagged, first of all. But also, the technology, Rob, is kind of creepy. It's got to be.
The technology is creepy, and for me, overall, and I've been saying this since last year, right? So I'll say it again. So anyone who is watching this or seeing this, maybe you won't see it because maybe they'll try to pull us down, right? This is the United States. In the United States, we have freedom of speech, right? Yes, there are limits, right? Yelling fire in a crowded theater. And the thing is, technically, you can yell fire in a crowded theater. You're just going to have to suffer the consequences for it.
Correct.
If there actually was not a fire in that
Correct.
theater. Right. I have maintained the same. Well, I mean, I didn't have this stance initially because I had to wait to watch as the numbers grew. I do not like the way the COVID story has been told in this country, right? My hair's back. The way the COVID story has been told in this country.
Right.
I have never said COVID is a hoax. I don't believe COVID is a hoax, not even slightly. I do believe it is a real illness, disease. I'm not sure which word to use.
It's a virus.
Virus, right? I maintain, though, this story has been sold in such a way to scare the fuck out of the entire world, to make people believe that COVID equals death. If you get COVID, you will die. Well, that is not factually true.
No, that's not factually true.
Not even close.
No. It is factually true that if you get COVID, you are more likely to live, and obviously
more likely to live.
Now, right? and as you get older, then yes, you have more of a chance of dying from
factors, as with any
comorbidities and all that.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. So
we're not allowed to say that, though.
Well, I think that, like, in a way, to me, I feel like you're kind of speaking more about the early days of, like, a year ago. Like, a year ago now, we were in, like, the like, panic of, like a year ago, the world shut down, right? Like, completely shut down. And honestly, the air was cool and cleaner looking, and it was, like, there was, like, things that were, like, wow, look at it. I mean, I remember that was one of those things, like, well, if I'm going to look at a silver lining, look at how, like, quiet things are. And it was kind of, in our neighborhood, it was kind of cool. And New York is a different animal. I get that.
Your neighborhood is kind of quiet anyway.
In my neighborhood, it's pretty quiet anyway. But I don't know. But we were in a place where we didn't know. Like, I remember, like, what, you could get it from touching a box. You could get it from this, and it was like, and it was all this, like, craziness of, like, how infectious we didn't know how this was, right? Obviously, we know more now. And so in hindsight, I can see, looking back at, like, 2020, March, April of 2020, and going, wow, we overreacted, But that's only because we know.
But again, that's not being said. It's not being said. All right, let me just say this. I'm going to try to make a full thought as quickly as I possibly can. That's not. Yes, I understand. When it first arrived, people didn't know. So for themselves. We're now over a year into.
Yeah.
It does not mean that you're going to die if you have COVID. There's a significantly stronger chance, percentage-wise, factual numbers. People can disagree. I really don't care. It's fact that you will not die from this, number one.
Right.
Number two, in the United States, there are about 27, 28 million people who have had COVID and survived. There are about, I think, 550,000 people who have died. I do not have feelings for the people who have died. I know people who have died. Yeah. My problem is with the way this story has been told. It has freaked people out. It has made everyone believe that they have to rush out and get the vaccine. I don't want the vaccine. I'm not taking the vaccine right now. If people want to take the vaccine, that is their right. I never once said that people shouldn't take the vaccine.
I had my first shot on Saturday.
And congratulations. If that is
I don't know. Congratulations isn't a necessary thing. Like, you're like, hey, congratulations. You know what I mean? Like, but I get what you're saying. Like, honestly, I still was like, I'm not scared of the shot. Honestly, I'm really not. And so that was. And I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you're scared of it. It also is a choice. Like, I've never taken a flu shot, and I do. Right. So I'm kind of in this weird place where I'm like, I don't know if I wanted to take the vaccine, but I was there. I did it, and I'm not going to regret it. I think.
No, I don't want people who do take it to regret it. Number one, I hope there's nothing in the future that will make people regret having done it, right?
Right.
But that's my issue. This is a brand new thing, which is not FDA approved. People keep saying it was FDA approved. No, it was not. It was given an emergency authorization. Those things that are FDA approved actually go through years and years of process and study before it happens.
Right.
Then people want to say, well, they've had this vaccine all along. They've been working on it, forever. Really? So how come nobody was saying that last March? Nobody was
No.
saying
They
that last
were.
March.
At the beginning of it. Like I remember Moderna. They came out on Moderna and said these guys have already been working on this type of vaccine, and so it was an easier switch for them and into going into that. I don't know enough about the.
Well, why didn't they
biotech.
introduce it then? Why did they have to scare the world to death and shut everything down? If they were 20 years.
Oh no
into
no no
this
no no
vaccine,
that vaccine. Well, because they had to work with. What they had was they had a coronavirus vaccine. They didn't have COVID-19 vaccine. Like they didn't have that part of it, is my understanding. And so they had to work on that, and then of course you have to go through the emergency approval process. And so I get what you're saying about saying it's not approved by the. I mean, it was approved by the FDA under an emergency declaration. So but it's not. It hasn't gone through the traditional FDA approval process.
No, it has
yet.
not.
No,
and for people for whom that would be important, and I am someone like that. And again, I don't even take the flu vaccine, like you said.
Right.
Should I decide to take this vaccine somewhere down the line? Maybe I will. But
Right.
the notion that in the United States of America, we are forcing people and shaming people into not taking a drug is a thing that prior to 2020, if you had ever done that, people would look at you like you were crazy. We don't do that here.
Oh, you
So-
mean like giving up rights after 9/11? Like giving up like our own rights?
Giving up our rights, right? Because those are things that are supposed to be hallmarks of the country that we don't do. But then people want to say, well, because it's a public health emergency, we have to give up, certain people have to give up their rights.
Right.
Which is interesting because as someone who vividly remembers when the AIDS epidemic hit in the 80s and 90s, there were plenty of people who would have loved to ship every gay person they could have found away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Give up all of their rights because there's this thing that they supposedly have that might put all of us in danger. Thank God somewhat of saner heads prevailed. So that did not become a thing. I don't want that to be a thing. If people want to take this vaccine, they should take it. If people don't want
Absolutely.
to take it, that is their fucking right.
I completely agree with that, and I don't. And look, if we are going to get flagged for anything we've said today, I'd be fat. I mean, I don't understand it because it's just we're just
And
talking
that's
about.
what we need to get the people who are watching this to understand. Everything that we're saying right now is the same thing
we said
from
last
our
time.
conversation a few weeks ago, and that is what led YouTube to say that this is medical misinformation. So they're going to warn us that they might have to stop us from.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing I will say though. Like, look, these vaccines have now been administered to millions of people, and so far there are you can have the second shot. Obviously, you can have like a bad day the next day or that day. As Christiana, my partner in magazine here, she had a bad day. She had immediately she got 102-degree fever. She got like all of the symptoms that they say that you could get if on the second shot, and she was and it happened. And you've talked to a few people who have said, yeah, I was really drained the next day, and then have other people like totally fine.
Right.
And so, but like we've now administered this to millions of people, and so far, so good, right? Now, I don't understand. I mean, I don't know what the long-term effects of any vaccine could be, and so I can't speak towards that if there are, because again, I mean, it's been a long time since I've taken any of these shots, so I guess we'll all find out soon enough, right? But so
That's my point.
yeah,
We will find out soon, but it's the way there's a thing that's happening right now that is making me so uncomfortable with the phrasing of, even when they talk about people who are the long haulers.
yeah,
You can't call someone a long hauler of anything when you're barely a year into it. Like 3 years from now, if they want to talk about long haulers, that's one thing. But they're using language that's driving me crazy. And when people say there's no problem with people who take the vaccine, see, people have gotten their shot. Again, I'm happy for the people who have their shots. I'm happy that they feel comfortable. But please don't use language to tell me, not you, but overall, don't use language to tell me, see, there's no problem. It's too fucking soon.
it's too soon. It is too soon. I get what you're saying. I do. But look, we'll see. I guess. I mean, we're playing we'll see. I am
lead to people being silenced we should not have received a message. We are saying right now the exact same things that we said then. What in there that we have just said
I don't know.
is medical misinformation?
I have no idea. I really don't, man. So we'll see. We'll see if they decide to flag us again. I mean, this is actually kind of a test. Reason why we're having this kind of conversation again is just see, well, what's going to happen. Like, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
like this is what we did. Now we're cognizant of what we're saying a little more too. But it's like, yeah, this is what we did. You know. So.
And is this not, and I said this the other day on a post that I made, is this no longer the United States?
Yeah.
I comprehend that we are nowhere near being the democracy the country has claimed itself to be. Though I want us to push into being that democracy and not retreat from it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
People are supposed to be able to have their opinion. So long as your opinion is not trying to, you're not telling people to go out and shoot someone or stab someone or rape someone. No, those kind of things I'm not talking about.
Yeah.
But if you have an opinion about a topic, and I've said before, I use Fox News as the example. I am not a fan. I can't. Tucker Carlson, I think, is a jackass. Laura Ingraham is a joke. Like, I hate these people.
Yeah.
What's his name? Hannity. All of these people. Guy in the Morning, Steve Doocy or something. They drive me crazy. However, as much as they drive me crazy, they are citizens of the United States, and they are allowed to express an opinion. Is that banishing? Are we not allowed to? I don't like. They probably won't like anything that I have to say, but I still have the right to have my
they're allowed
opinion.
to express an opinion. I think the problem that it's yes, they can have their opinion all they want. You know, you're allowed to have your opinion. Now, as soon as you have a company and you have you put it out there, then people can decide to spend money with you or not. So that's what I think is hilarious is they bring this whole cancel culture thing up, and it's like, well, that's just people making a choice. Isn't that allowed? I mean, aren't they allowed to make a consumer choice? I mean, the Republicans kind of tried to do it against Coca-Cola recently. I don't know. Coke's like, okay, buddy, sure, thanks.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. To me, it's a consumer choice. But so the thing is, the problem isn't with Tucker Carlson as his opinion. I mean, I don't like his opinion. I think he's a poor person too. But the problem is more that Fox News is continually propping him up and supporting him. And I think that's where I would have issue with it.
I think the problem is that Fox News. So he's there. He's on their employee, right? So first they're going to prop up their employee. My issue is that Fox News refers to itself as Fox News. They're an opinion.
Oh no, yeah, they're absolutely an opinion.
Right. So if they would present themselves as Fox Opinion, they would get into less hot water. But they're presenting themselves as a news channel. But these people are not reporting news. They're reporting a far right, not even far right. I'm going to stop saying far right. They're reporting a right propaganda type machine. And people can make arguments against the left and MSNBC and CNN. And are there people on those networks who I also think go step outside of the bounds of journalism to report their stories?
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
Willing to call those people out when they make bullshit statements too.
Yeah.
But what drives me crazy about Fox News is they regularly refer to the media and how much they hate the media as if it's this
as if they're not
thing.
the media. Yeah.
Like Fox News is not a media empire.
Well, it's that's very similar. It always cracks me up because it's the same thing, right? So you have Fox News is part of the media, and yet all they do is criticize the media. And then you have Republicans, and this was even back in old school Republicans, like when we were kids, right? Where they would say that the government is terrible and it sucks, and it's like, but you're the government, and it's like you don't get to run something you hate is I think part of it. It's like if you hate the government, then don't work for it. Don't be part of it.
Yes.
Stop. It doesn't. It's so weird. It just doesn't. I mean, that argument is right. What was it? The most dangerous words Reagan said is like, "I'm here from the government. I'm here to help," or something like that. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. I think that was the phrase. And
Reagan.
Well, and that's an interesting conversation too, because we have this huge spending bill that Biden's put out now. Like you hear all these people say, "Well, wow, he's like trying to be FDR," and to me, I'm kind of like, yeah, this is the time of the century that I guess FDR should come into play, right? It's almost crazy how we're not far aligned 100 years from, I mean, from what happened 100 years ago, really,
Right.
right? I mean, I mean, it's close to
It's not
alignment.
that different. I'm
It's
always like,
not.
I love when I see, you can do like a YouTube search for blooper reels from like say movies of the 1940s or whatever,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Supposedly this whole different time, right?
Right.
We were, people were more respectful of the way
Right.
that they spoke, and we
Right.
didn't say negative things. But of course, there was racism and sexism and
Of course.
all that shit. And you'll have these wonderful movies where I'm just making this up. I'm going to pick a random actress because it may not be true. But you
Okay.
have these movies where like Norma Shearer
Mhm.
or I don't know, Myrna Loy, right?
Mhm.
Who are these very sort of wholesome portrayals,
Mhm.
right? Then they cut to the blooper reel and they're all like, "Oh fuck,"
Of
or "I got
course.
it wrong." Oh
Yeah.
shit! Like we are not that far removed as people
No.
from a century ago.
Absolutely. Well, plus also, in the performing world, we tend to be a little bit more relaxed in
They can be, but
but
I guess more what I'm leaning into is the
I get what you're
notion
saying.
that just
Yeah.
like you're talking about, the paralleling the FDR,
Mhm.
we there are similarities between
Yeah.
things that were happening then, things that were happening now that
Yeah.
should be happening.
Yeah.
FDR was putting out plans to build up the country and the
Mhm.
infrastructure, and
Yep.
100 years from now, we should be revisiting those things because a bridge that was built 100 years ago when there were fewer cars,
Yeah.
of course that bridge is on the verge of collapse.
Yeah. Look, and I'm not even gonna like a lot of people are like, well, we're gonna have to spend all this money because we didn't spend it before, and it's like, well, yeah, we are, and I think people need to just accept that we have um, not in my house I go through stages, right? I go through stages where I'm going to get a whole bunch of stuff done in one year, where I do a whole lot of home projects and I get shit done, and then there's a few years where I take it off. Like, and I'm doing other stuff with them, with my money and what I'm doing, right? And I kind of look at that's the same thing here. We've been letting things slide. Like the shingles are falling apart of of the House of America right now. The driveway needs to be repaved. We just got to get this shit done now, okay? And like I
Right?
think
Plumbing's a mess,
it's a
all of it.
dude, and getting all the lead out of the pipes. I don't know why anybody would be like, yeah, no, well, let's not put money into that right now. I mean, this is just stuff that has to be done.
Because they want it to be that is a thing that I'm not sure how to fix this, but I do know it needs to be fixed. I truly believe that we are living in a country of people who overwhelmingly want, you know, better things for people in general, whether they want infrastructure, whether they want people to have healthcare, whether they want schools to be better, like
Right.
all of these things, whether they want Social Security to improve. And one day we're going to have to talk about Social Security
Oh yeah,
and how totally jacked up of a system that it is.
it
That's
is.
money that's supposed to belong to you, the person, but the government takes it back when you die.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
it's your money.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
your-
it's amazing when you're married to somebody. I think at the very least, like, married people, when one dies, the other one gets to take whichever one was making more in Social Security. I mean, I thank you for that, right? But like,
But that's not the way it should be.
at least let them.
The
Yeah.
surviving spouse or surviving partner should get the remainder of whatever that person's
Agreed.
balance
Completely
was.
agree.
But that's not what happened. But we'll have another conversation.
Well, there's
about
no
it. I totally
balance though. I mean, well, I guess so. I mean, 'cause that's going to be interesting.
No, there is still money in there. Maybe there's not as much money as there previously happened for a variety of reasons. But if Social Security is being taken out of your paycheck from the very first paycheck you get, and they tell you that is yours.
Correct.
So if you die, why does the government get it back? It's not theirs. They said it was yours, but we'll do a whole Social Security thing. But
Okay.
what I was trying to say is that
Yeah.
I think we have a country full of people who do want better things for future generations, but we're controlled by these 435 people
Right.
in Congress,
Hmm.
and then the 7 men who own every company in the world.
Right.
That's the actual problem. I don't think that most people don't want infrastructure. I don't think most people don't want everyone to be able to have health care. But for the Mitch McConnells of the world, it's much more fun to play this political football back.
Yeah.
Sickening.
Well, it's become, it's really interesting because, he made this statement that it's really, he keeps making a statement that I'm like, I keep wanting to say, I can't believe he made it, but I'm like, wow, he really just doesn't care anymore. And like when he made this, the hypocrisy level that this guy is at is like, it's like literally like, I think he's achieved something that nobody else has ever achieved as far as a level of hypocrisy. Like, I mean, you can just go through his whole career and, let's just, the Supreme Court is a perfect example. But to say corporations stay out of politics when all they've done is be in bed with corporations and giving them the tax breaks is kind of amazing to me. And so, yeah, that's ridiculous. It's
not based in any kind of reality.
Not based in any kind of reality. And honestly, I think it's interesting, and I actually do love that there are corporations that are actually kind of going, well, we used to be. I mean, even they are like, look, man, we gotta make money too, and you're gonna mess with our money on this level now, is what you're gonna do. And I think that's really interesting. I mean, it's like,
and corporations only make money from consumers spending, and consumers are part of a country that is based in politics. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever to even make that corporations stay out of politics. Is the equivalent of saying people stay out of politics.
Well, that's it. Well, if you're Mitt Romney, like you say, I mean, corporations are people too. So did he just say people stay out of politics? Or are corporations not people anymore? I'm just not clear on this now. I mean,
legally, I believe they still are.
So there are people that can't be arrested or put in jail for crimes, and okay, got it. But they have all the other freedoms and benefits of people in private. Okay, sure. Yeah. That's when you know the law. That's when you know there's too many lawyers coming up with the law, because you can reason your way into saying a corporation is a person.
Yeah.
It's like it's just not. Every scientist out there is like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. If they are, though, then corporations are at the top of the food chain, right? If they're people.
Oh yeah. Totally.
So, but anyway, the thing is, you have the employees of these corporations are the ones that are like actually starting to put the movement up on a lot of these things. I mean, and that's what happens. So you have this thing. This is, I think, to me, part of what happens when you are no longer the majority party and you're still trying to rule, right? And that's what you have with the Republicans. You're not the majority, and you got to remember, these corporations, the majority of the people in the corporations are the majority, and they actually do not think like the Republican Party does. Now, there may be people at the top that do, but they also recognize, wow, the natives are getting restless, and this is wrong. You guys have gone too far. And so I think that this could be really the thing that kind of can take down the Republican Party. And that's only if these corporations actually put money behind their stance. I mean, just saying it, like, thanks Coca-Cola, just saying it is one thing, right? And thanks, Will Smith for backing out of doing
what was he calling there?
Emancipation. I wanted to ask you about that. So for those of you listening right now, so like Will Smith and I'm sorry, who's the director? Why am I blanking out?
Lost it.
Is it Antoine? Is it Antoine? No.
Antoine Fuqua?
Is it Antoine Fuqua?
I think so. Yeah.
All right, so I think it is, but somebody will correct us probably. So,
Someone will correct, yeah.
But anyway, Will Smith movie, Emancipation was going to be done in Georgia. It was going to be shot, and I don't know if it was going to be shot in Atlanta or just in the area, because Georgia is now like the southern Hollywood, right? I mean, they did a lot of great tax breaks, something I wish Colorado did, honestly. You already have that in New York, I know, but and so it created a big boom. And here's the thing: that boom in Atlanta and in the Georgia area of like moving Hollywood, a part of Hollywood there, has been awesome. It's been a resurgence. It's been great for Georgia. It's been great for Atlanta. And by the way, it's probably one of the larger reasons, not as big as Stacey Abrams as a reason, but of why Georgia is going blue, okay? Or starting to like show hints that it can be purple, right? And that's also why the voting laws are happening as they are there. So
Yeah.
it, I'm kind of like torn, Rob, on them pulling their movie out. Like, because did you punish the Republican Party in Georgia? I know you punished Georgia as far as financially, but who I'm really feeling like you're punishing are the workers who benefit the most from that movie being there. And so I, I, I don't
It's a
think
double-edged sword,
it
right?
is,
Because
right?
you do want to punish, or not even, I don't want to say punish. You want to make these corporations and the politicians accountable,
Yeah.
and so you remove the work from the state, which then removes work from people, whether they be craft services people, whether they be costume people, whether they be lighting people, right? So
Yeah.
now they will not have a chance to be paid. So I do understand that, and I want to be careful because it's sort of like the belief system is that, well, sometimes that's what you have to do, which
Yeah.
is true, but that
True.
doesn't help the person who now has no income for food, rent, mortgage, so forth and so on.
Already in a recession. And
Right.
unless they're doing in like unless they said, hey, you know what, here's the deal, anybody we had already had lined up or hired, because they were filming in like 2 months, they already had a lot of stuff lined up, I'm guarantee you, we're gonna fly you to wherever we're going. And I don't know if they did that or not, but
I mean, that would be great if they
Would
were
be.
able to do
It would
that.
be.
I don't know. Again, it's studying contracts and agreements that they have.
Yeah. But
But I think that the key is for all of us, right, myself included, to to gain a better understanding of these corporate entities. Number one, who owns them?
yeah.
What else do they own?
Hmm.
And then how to truly economically boycott the company as a whole, which will require us as people to accept that there are going to be some things that we're going to have to not be able to do or purchase if you really want to bring these companies to their needs.
Well, we're
And
not.
that's going
But
to be hard for some people.
well, but I think it's more about bringing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not about the. To me, it's these companies coming out against what they're doing in Georgia, and like
Mhm.
so. I mean, if the Republicans want to boycott those companies, they can try. I guess. I mean, the thing is, I think. I'm just wondering if it's effective. That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, I think speaking out against it is great, but I think they have to start spending their money politically to push the envelope away. That's the only way to punish the Republican Party, is to basically fight against them, like, without just saying it.
But it's bigger than the Republican Party to me. It's punishing a global system that intentionally disenfranchises large numbers of people. And you only punish that system if so. It's great that Coca-Cola has left Georgia, right, for the purposes of this conversation. It's great that they do that. Does that mean that they're still not funneling money to horrible causes elsewhere, right? We don't know that they're not. And if we want to,
They do
so
bottle.
for the average person, right, Coca-Cola is a soda, a can of soda, right? But that's not what Coca-Cola is. Coca-Cola is a multinational company
Oh
that
no, they're
has its
huge.
tentacles everywhere. So you could not buy a can of Coke as your way of protesting what
Yeah.
they support. But if they own 100 other companies
Yeah.
that are still doing horrible, they're still
Oh yeah.
spending their money horribly, how do you actually truly hold the corporate level of
Mhm.
those companies
Well,
responsible?
and it's hard because first of all, Coca-Cola isn't just Coke, right? Like, Coke is the
Right.
best-selling beverage of beverages, but it's not. Like, in fact, Coke. I mean, they have. I think they're Dasani or they Aqua. I always confuse. But
I know.
PepsiCo, by the way, is actually, I didn't know this, at least a couple years ago, bigger than Coca-Cola as a company. But they're bigger because they invested more broadly as far as what other products they carry, and all the other things. And it's the same thing. Coke has done the same thing. Coke is more successful as an individual standalone product, right? But PepsiCo, I think is the name of the company. Official is actually a larger company. At least the last time I had seen it. And so it comes down to, like, really, like, if you want to boycott a company, if somebody does, you have to really be serious about boycotting a company like this. Like, I mean, imagine boycotting Johnson and Johnson. Like,
They own everything.
they own everything. Procter and Gamble. I mean, like, really, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of a crazy
And it's
thing to
not
think.
that it's not possible. It's just we're now living in a time where
Yeah.
because these corporations have such massive reach. And again, I don't have. Would I like to own a corporation one day? Possibly. So I don't necessarily have an issue with the idea of a corporation. But for us as individuals in 2021 to figure out what does a boycott look like and is it effective, I always look back to the Montgomery bus boycott. To
Right.
me, that's the prime example of using your power. These individuals who were at much more of an economic disadvantage than people are today. I mean, there's still plenty of people who live in that sort of economic space, but most of their only options were the bus.
Yeah.
Everyone didn't have a car.
Yeah.
Right? But they actually said, we're going to allow ourselves to be massively disinconvenienced for as long as it takes to break this industry. And they did it, right? So if they could do it, I believe we could do it. We now have to parallel that, though, with the fact that these are companies that own so many things. It requires us a willingness on all of our parts to sort of, just like when I go into the grocery store, I try to be as healthy of an eater as possible. I think I'm a relatively healthy eater, right? I'm regularly I'm that guy who's reading the ingredients before I buy something. Like, oh, does it have this?
I know.
Does it have is the first ingredient sugar? Like, I'm looking through all these things, and it takes time to change your eating habits. Well, it will also take time if you usually brought this product or went to that store and you suddenly realize, well, if I really do want to boycott Procter & Gamble, I can't buy this product, and that means I may have to go out of my way to now find a different. Then that's what you're going to have to do.
That's what you're gonna have to do.
But they've taken they control everything to a point where people either feel like they can't take the time to do that, or they say, well, I don't want to do that, but then we end up trapped in this system.
Yeah. No, I mean it is it's interesting how the onus has been put on the consumer for a lot of things anyway. You know, if you see anything on recycling, it's like one of the comments that you'll see a lot of is that when it comes to recycling, it's like somehow they flipped the script and they've made it our responsibility for getting rid of their shitty packaging.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, well, and if you don't recycle, it's on you. It's like, well, why don't you make better packaging? Why don't you make...
Is the issue really... I mean, yes, I can accept people's plastic bag arguments, but is the issue really my plastic bag that I'm leaving the store with? Or is the issue that everything in the store is wrapped in plastic?
I mean, it's both. Honestly, first of all, the issue isn't your plastic bag. The issue is the company that says, "Here's the plastic bags that you're going to use, and this is what it is." I mean, there's options out there. You don't have to do the bag. And if you're somebody like we have these, the tote bag box things. They fold up, and that's what we use. And so you have the option to do that. I mean, and once in a while, I feel guilty if I get in the car and I go to the store and I feel like, oh, we forgot to put those back in the car. I got to go use a freaking plastic bag, and it drives me crazy when I do because I know there's options, right? But again, that's what I can do. But I shouldn't have to do that. It should be the thing that it shouldn't even be an option. There are places that are saying no more plastic bags. And I think that's the way it should be. But you're right. The packaging inside is a problem. The packaging in the cannabis industry is terrible because they make you have child-proof containers, right? So they're all half of it's always in a pill bottle or a glass jar. Like I actually have a glass jar right here from DenRec because they take their shit seriously. By the way, they like to give it to you in glass, and I appreciate that. Glass is recyclable though, and so that's what I love about what they're doing there. I mean. I would prefer to be all in hemp plastic. We do the THC Championship, which we just launched officially yesterday. Anybody wants to sign up? But we THC Championship, we use Sana Packaging, and they've created hemp plastic, biodegradable hemp plastic, containers, and they're child-proof too. You have to do the little, like,
Right.
you know, they can't open unless you do the thing. And so, like, there's options out there, and people need to take it. If you're going to complain about the plastic in the ocean, you're going to complain about all these things, then you got to find the other option. And that's one of the things the cannabis industry. Some people are really like going after it and doing it, but like some aren't. And you know, it's a wasteful industry, unfortunately, because of the nature of it. You have to grow indoors. It's power intensive for most places. I mean, you can do outdoor grows, but it's power intensive for what you need to do. So there needs to be movements towards all these things, but it has to happen from the industry. You know, I mean, the consumers can keep demanding this, but I mean, we've been demanding better packaging for a while, and they're slowly giving it to you, right? I mean, it's kind of. But I mean, if we
Yeah.
really wanted to do something, we could do it fast. Look how fast we got a vaccine out there. Look how fast we got masks for people when it was needed. We were able to produce some shit, you know, as a country, as a world, right?
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see. I just feel like we're at a point where either it's all gonna really go to hell soon, or we're gonna get our shit together, and we're cramming for, like, I feel like we're cramming as a world, as a country, and everything. It's like, half the people are like, fuck it, let's not even do it. Let's just screw the test tomorrow, which is basically the future of our planet. And the other half are like, we gotta cram and get it. We gotta get an A on this shit. We gotta, like, and they're gonna stay up all night and like do everything they can. But it's a group
I think
effort,
we're
man.
going to get an A, but we're going to fail first. So I don't consider myself a fatalist. I'm being honest. I
So
don't
we got to
think
go to
of myself as
summer
a fatalist.
school and make up and
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the world, to a certain extent, is in fact already, but going to have to burn. Right? I think
it already is, yeah.
there are so many systems that have to be really destroyed first before we actually can move forward. You can't move forward still using the same broken system.
No, I agree with that, and that's the problem. Is it's like, if we keep limping along with this system, I mean, it's. I've heard this great analogy once in a book I read, and it was I'm blanking on the name, but it's by an author named Daniel Quinn, and he said, right now we are using a system that is not working. And it's as if we are at the top of a cliff or a skyscraper, and we have these wings that we made, and we think that they're going to work, so we jump off the cliff, and we're flapping, and at first it feels like, wow, this system's working, man. I'm flying. But really, you're just slowly falling, and the closer you get to the ground, the more you start flapping crazily, but it doesn't mean anything because you're going to still hit the fucking ground. All right, so
Yeah.
you know, this in the system, like, is what those wings. We think that's what it is, and you know, and so
And the system is working the way it was. That's the big thing. The systems are working in the ways that were intended because the systems, globally, but specifically in this country, the systems were designed for straight, white, primarily land-owning men. That's who these systems were designed for.
They were designed for a colonial type of, like,
Yes.
yes, they were. I agree.
And so we repair that and make them more accessible for Black people, Latino people, people of color, indigenous people,
Yep.
women, gay people, LGBT people overall, people with disabilities. Like, until the system actually recognizes all of these people who are part of the space that
Sure.
we live in,
Yeah.
nothing will fix it.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's also how we get people elected. We'll solve all the world problems in the next show, but
Yes, the next episode.
in the
is
next
to
episode,
solve
we'll
the world
but
problem.
I do want to say one thing. None of it's going to matter because of this news I read recently. There's an article in Time, and a scientist has created a human primate chimera embryo. Do you know what that is?
No.
So basically, this scientist has been able to create an embryo that has human and primate DNA in it. Now, look, before people freak out, they don't let this embryo grow into an actual thing, but they're doing this study, and it's actually. I read the whole article, and I highly recommend reading the whole article, because the first thing I thought of was like, well, that's how the next plot of Planet of the Apes starts. like,
Right. Right.
really? I mean, does anybody think that this? And that's my first thought was: does anybody think it's a good thing to mix human and prime? And like, like, are we trying to create the missing link now? Like, but
I mean, what's the purpose of it?
so the purpose is actually really interesting scientifically. It's they're looking at ways to basically there's a stage in life as embryo, and it's in the third week after initial gestation, right? So it's in the third week after conception, and we have a rule where you cannot do anything with and I'm trying to remember the whole article right now. We have a rule where you can't use an embryo, let it get past the second week of stage. So because once it's in the third week is when all the really interesting shit happens. Like everything starts going, oh, I'm gonna be a liver and I'm gonna be this, or maybe not that at first, but like they start these cells start splitting into what they're gonna become, and that's the really interesting part that they want to study. And they couldn't study it, obviously, with embryonic cells from a fetus. So they're using embryonic cells from a primate and then mixing it with adult stem cells that they kind of can reverse back to their original state. It's crazy science, man. Really crazy science. And so what they're looking at is as a potential of there's medical applications down the line. Could be growing human organs in this thing. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. Like that, but that's one of the things they said that could happen. That may not happen ethically or whatever. But they did do this study and it worked. That's the thing that's crazy. Okay, both primate and human cells bonded, and they had tried this with pigs already, and it didn't work. And they've tried it with other lesser form, like not as closely related to humans, and it didn't work. And so it did work in this instance, and I highly recommend reading the whole article because it's like it sounds really freaky and wild, but it's it's like I read it and I was like, shit, Planet of the Apes, man. We're splicing human, but when you read it, you realize what they're doing and how they went about it was very ethical. Even though, because they knew there was going to be questions about this, and they actually went out and like asked, and they had forums, and they said, "Is this okay if we do this?" And all these scientists, and they brought in other people to talk about it, and they do discuss the ethics of how these studies are made. It was fascinating, but it's still crazy to think that we are in a time when we have actually successfully created an embryo that has both primate and human DNA. That's
Okay.
That's shit. That's
Topic for the next show.
Topic for the next show, man. We gotta talk about that. Talk science. I love science.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so I had to go over because that's a tangent, but it just popped.
No,
in my
I
head.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us
Yes,
today.
thank you.
We tried something a little different today. We can't do Wednesday nights anymore for our live show because because I coach my daughter's softball team. And that's when our practices have to be scheduled. So what are you gonna do? And so we're trying this Friday morning thing because it was the only time the two of us could work. If you guys like it, let us know. But yeah, that was fun.
It was good.
Starting the day off with Rob. Love it.
Yes, good to see you, Jay.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, peace, love, and happiness.